had for the boil, if you get the boil, was to put a chicken's asshole on your neck and hold it there, and it will cure it. That was some of the that's what science offered up. So it's true. So when the church said no, actually the reason for the plague is because you're all drinking too much and you're all sleeping around, and come back to church and you'll be safe. And when that didn't work, they then said, okay, the devil sent it, and there were many other kind of horrendous things that they blamed. All ethnic minorities were blamed. Everyone was blamed. And it's just depressing that in a time when everyone should have pulled together, everyone instead was blaming everybody for the plague. And I just thought, what a great sort of backdrop for a story.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, amazing. So where, give or take, where can you tell us where the break is? Where it becomes your story?
No, literally the up into the party. I mean, once the party ended, we then had as soon as you walk into a meeting, and the producer said to me after, do all directors go into meetings and say, yeah, I love this script, and I want to just change a few things, but really you don't, you just want to change it and do your own thing, and do all directors say that? And I said, well, of course they do, yeah, we all do it. But I walked in and said, let's take the supernatural out and let's make it about the fear of the supernatural. And as soon as it all seemed like a good idea at the time, but what do you replace it with? So in the original script, it was that Carice Van Houten was the devil, and Sean represented the church, and it was the battle for this young monk's soul between the devil and the church. If you take that out, and it seems like a good idea at the time, but what do you replace it with? So you have to come up with a village, and say, well, what does she want in the village? How does she control the village by fear, and what does she stand to gain from it? And also, what do you do to survive in the village? And so we had the idea of renouncing. And what I like about that scene, which is obviously a very deer huntery scene, is the relentlessness of it. Is that the guy, like the torturer, you expect him to become, a guy who's all about himself. Actually, he's prepared to die for his God, and I like that. I think it plays well because it makes you feel like these guys seem like they're rough vigilante soldiers or whatever, but they're actually prepared to die. And I find that really terrifying, that whole sequence.
No,
it's kind of really wears you down. That's what I like.
Well, and I also liked. I kind of thought I knew a second. It was like, oh, the torturer is going first. He's gonna know how to. No, he's done. Which I thought was.
Well, we tried again going back to the idea of the style. Again with the chicken on the asshole thing. But that plays into, I've made, as I've done, Severance is a movie where you enjoy the deaths and you try and make them a set piece and you try and give them movie moments. If you look at the whole kind of Final Destination model is how elaborate and titillating can we make a death scene. All we did in this was say, well, let's try and keep it like stuff you see on the net. Let's keep death really cold and brutal. So, and then it plays differently. So a guy renounces and he gets hung, and you don't see him be hung, and I think it's just got a grimmer side to it, which I like.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, I feel like, and I mean, I don't think I'm bringing anything from the outside on this one, but there's definitely, I thought, and I like that he actually mentions it by name by the end. But this, from the very beginning, there's a placing blame, guilt kind of thread throughout the whole thing. They almost take the blame themselves personally for the plague for their war crimes, for lack of a better term.
They're saying that we've done things and that's what's brought it on us. And I like the idea at the end that what you realise is if the plague was sent by God and to punish us for our sins, then if there's a village without the plague, that there's no God there. And I think that kind of, it's like a catch-22, and I think all the kind of movies about the madness of war are always, you can't win. In that period, as we all know, they used to, if you were a witch, you would sink in the lake, and if you were innocent, you would drown. If you were guilty, you would float up and you would survive, then you'd have to be burnt. So, as I say, there's so much more we could have done. I want to do a kind of unofficial sequel, the kind of like titillating, sick version.
Well, we're actually going to show the unofficial sequel after this that was made before.
Oh, that's right.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I suspect you may have a thing or two to say about that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the cast. An amazing cast, I think, all the way across.
I just was very lucky. Sean was attached already, and then Carice Van Houten I'm obsessed with because to me, she's got like a period look. I saw her when she was in Black Book, and she looks like a 1920s movie star. She's got this kind of angular cheeks, and you ask her to do something, and she does this really odd. The performance she gives, the sequence where she says to Eddie when she's leading him to the rebirth scene, and she sort of puts her hand up and says, "Come," and she does this really awkward move. She thought it was rubbish, and I just ran out from behind the camera and went, "Oh, that's brilliant, it kind of looks like Metropolis, you're kind of acting all weird, and you do that." And she's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, do that. And I like to encourage people to do the odd things, and I think that's, you know, she ran right with it. And I think the welcome bit of humour she brings to the performance, and she's got a glint in her eye when she plays that role, I think helps. And then Eddie Redmayne, who's the young monk, is just, you know, a guy, I think he's just going to be a star. The sequence where he finds the remains for a body, when he finds the horse and the whole stuff where he's finding her and he's crying, every single scene from when he runs down the hill to the horse running off, all of that was shot in about 40 minutes, literally, because we were told we had to leave the set, and he could just turn it on, you know, just all the time. And the maddest thing happened with the horse was that the horse, when Eddie starts crying, the horse got scared and ran off and just kept running. And of course, you know, luckily in East Germany where we filmed it, it's quite, you know, it's more of a rural area. The horse ran for 3 miles. So in the middle of all this, it could get hit by a car. It was just really grim. And eventually they came back with the horse and it was fine. But just generally, overall, what we had was we had a real pack mentality. One of my favourite actors in it is the guy who survives at the end, John Lynch, who plays Wolfston. And the scene, some of the fun we had was the scene in set. I just said to Laura's at the back that when he turns up and he's in the cages and he's got his shirt off, and I said, well, you know, he's got a good little body, he's been working out. But I said, well, have you got your shirt off? And he goes, oh, it was pulled off when we were taken. I said, right. He was the only one. He was just